Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Spigot episode. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do NPCs using NMS and Packets. Alright guys, I am back to the Spigot series. As you can see, I have a face cam now, and I'm pretty much used to it now. So I got a couple live streams using a face cam and some videos, but it's about time that I make a Spigot episode on NMS or something like that, something advanced, and I am back. So in the last episode, we showed you how to do NMS, the basics of NMS, explaining it, and I got a lot of positive feedback from that, so it seems that you guys really liked the video. So hopefully you guys know how to do basic stuff with NMS now, and can play around with Minecraft a little bit better than you could before. But in this episode, I'm going to show you how to do something else highly requested, which is NPCs. So NPCs are something very common you see in servers. They're not very easy to do, and there's many ways you can do it. There's a couple of different ways, but the way I'm going to do it is you're going to do /create, and it's going to create an NPC for you, and he's going to look like this, Billy Bob, and he looks at you when you walk around, which is a common thing you see on servers, and also he's holding some stuff. You can customize what he's holding and wearing. He has a helmet, see? And his name is Billy Bob, and he actually appears on the tab list, which is cool too. And he has a notch skin. So yeah, I'm going to show you how to do all of that this episode. I'm going to show you how to spawn the NPC itself, make it appear on the tab list, how to give him his name and his skin, how to set the skin, and then also how to give him armor and some stuff to hold, as well as make him look at you. So that's all I'm going to be showing this episode. In the next episodes, I'll be showing you some more advanced stuff, probably like making it move around and walk around like a zombie, or using AI, like a Pathfinder AI or something like that. I have to look into that. If you guys want to see that, then hit that like button and let me know in the comment section what you do want to see, and I'll try doing it, okay? Alright, so let's get started. Let's see if we can make Billy Bob here. Hey guys, before I get back to the video, I want to tell you something real quick about Brain.fm. Brain.fm is a great product for getting into your zone, whether that be for working or falling asleep, as you just saw me a second ago after listening to some of their music. I'm sure you guys are just like me. I'm a programmer, and also I'm a student, so I spend most of my time at my computer pretty much all day working on projects or trying to focus on getting a task done. A lot of the time it can be hard to focus with so many noises in the outside world, and Twitter and social media and stuff like that. So it's hard to focus. So Brain.fm is a website and also a company that curates for you music and sound to focus, relax, or fall asleep. They have all types of popular music choices or sound choices, like lo-fi if you're trying to focus, or if you're trying to fall asleep in 2 seconds, like I just did, the sound of rain or a thunderstorm, or like the beach or a forest or something like that. Really cool. And the other thing that's really cool about Brain.fm is that it actually does help you focus and relax and stuff like that, because there have been studies that have been done that show that it does that. It helps you focus and stuff. So with all that said, if you go to brain.fm/CodySimpson or use code CodySimpson, you can get 20% off on a new subscription, and even cooler, it helps my channel out so I can keep making great content for all of you guys. And also, if you think about it this way, you can watch my videos to learn, turn on Brain.fm to focus, and start coding what you learned. It's both a website and an app, so whenever I'm, at home, I go into the website and I, turn on some lo-fi music or some other focus music, and I work on my projects that I have to work on or my homework. And then when I'm outside, when I'm not home, when I'm at school or something like that, I use their app, and it's made really simple because you can use it wherever you want to go. Again, that's brain.fm/CodySimpson, but I also leave a link in the description below, so make sure to check it out. Alright, let's get back to the video. Alright, so we're going to make a new package, commands. Inside of that, we're going to make a new command to test this out. It'll be called the create command. Inside of this method, inside this command here, we're going to create the mechanism for spawning an NPC, all the code for that. And also, what we need to do is go to our pom.xml and have all of the stuff in here that allows us to import NMS and use NMS in our code. So currently, we're just using the Spigot API, but we want to make it so that we can use NMS. So if you don't know how to do that, then make sure to watch my last episode where I showed you how to do all of that. There's going to be a link in the description below where you can see my pom.xml, and you can copy and paste it. Essentially, that's what I do for my new projects that use NMS. But first things first, I'm going to change it to Java 16, just by doing that, and then click the Maven reload button here. And then now IntelliJ IDEA should recognize that I'm using Java 16 and make the necessary changes. It'll allow me to use, new features and stuff like that, right? So now to make it support NMS, what I'm going to do is First, I'm going to change this from Spigot-API to just Spigot. And then right in between here, it doesn't matter where you put it, but I'm going to just put it in between here. We're going to add a classifier tag. And in that classifier tag, we're going to add remapped Mojang. So yeah, to be clear, we're going to be using the Mojang mappings, or Mojang, however the hell you want to say it, not the original bucket or Spigot mappings, okay? So there we go. That'll allow us to use CraftBucket and NMS in our project. But as you remember, there's a plugin that we can add here that when we compile it with Maven, it'll give us the mapped version, the unmapped version, and all that stuff, so that we can use like the original, Mojang mappings jar. We could have the unmapped version and all those different versions, so that we can distribute it and use it without issue. So yeah, let me go ahead and copy that from my other project here. So it goes to plugin, under plugin, boom. So now we have the plugin here. Make sure all the versions are the same. So 1.17.1 -R0.1 snapshot is the same as my version that I'm importing, and everything else should be the same here. Great. So after you're done doing that, just click the Maven reload button, and now everything should resolve and download. And so in this command here, what we're going to do first is get the player that is associated with this command. So if sender is instance of player, and we're going to need this player because we're going to be sending packets, and you'll see why in a second. So player, so org.bucket.entity. Now, as you know, hopefully from last episode, it's okay if you don't remember, a player is the bucket representation of a player. And then a craft player is the craft bucket representation of a player. And then the NMS representation of a player is a server player for the Mojang mappings. For the regular mappings, I believe, like the traditional mappings, I believe it's entity player, something like that, or player entity, one of those. So what we want to do is, so if you think about it this way, if every player on the server is represented by a server player object, if we create a new server player object, technically we're creating our own player. And then somehow we need to make that player appear on the server. So that's how we're going to create our NPC. We're going to essentially synthesize our own artificial server player object and then put that on the server by using packets. That's one way to do NPCs, and that's how we're going to start here, okay? So we're going to make a new server player. Server player, we'll call it NPC is equal to, make sure you import server player from NMS, net.minecraft.server.level server player. That's how you know it's from NMS. Is equal to new server player. And if you do Control P here, the constructor parameters for that is a Minecraft server object, a server level object, and then a game profile object, okay? Let's work our way through this one by one. So this Minecraft server, as you can imagine, is just a regular server, and we can probably obtain that the same way we obtain it from in Bucket. So in Bucket, we obtain a server object from either a world or a player, right? We can do player.get server, right? I think something like that, right? So we're going to do that. So we're going to do something similar. We're going to turn this player object here, this bucket player object, into a craft bucket craft player object, and then we're going to get the NMS representation of that, and then get the necessary Minecraft server and server level objects. A server level is essentially just a world representation. So in bucket we have world, in NMS we have server level, and then game profile is something else. We'll see that in a second. Okay, so let's do that step by step. So first we're going to get a craft player. So craft player is equal to player, or craft player. We're going to cast player into a craft player. So there we go. And then now we want to get the NMS representation. So that's going to be a server player. So server player SP is equal to craft player dot get handle. Getting the handle is how you get the NMS representation, as we saw last episode. So now with that, we can get the Minecraft server object and the server level objects. So Minecraft server is equal to SP dot, and then it'll suggest a method that returns the object that you need, which is also cool. IntelliJ does that. So get server app happens to be the method, so very simple in this case. Make sure to import that. And then server level is the other object we need by doing Control P within the constructor here. Server level, there we go. Server level is equal to, import that, sp.get level. And again, level is just a world essentially. All right, so now we're going to take these objects and then pass them in, so server and then level. And finally, we need a game profile object. So your game profile is going to have a bunch of useful information about a server player or a player in general. It's going to have the skin of the player, it's going to have their UUID, a unique identifier, and stuff like that. So those are the two main things you think about when you think about a game profile: their skin and their UUID. So in this case, we're not actually getting a real player, right? This is something that we're creating artificially. So we need to create a game profile on our own, because every game profile is usually unique because it has a unique identifier, and the skin can be the same technically. It can have the same skin as someone else in a way, but it's always the unique identifier that is different, right? So we're going to create a new game profile. So game profile is equal to new game profile. And this is actually a com.mojang.authlib game profile object, not from NMS directly, but kind of like the same thing. It's still from Minecraft. So first we need a UUID, and we can generate a unique identifier by doing UUID.random UUID, and this will give us one. And then now a name, so we need to give our player a name, and we're going to call our player Billy Bob. So this will just be his name. So just like my Minecraft account has a unique identifier like 123, it also has a name like Cody Simpson, right? Same thing for this. So now that we have a game profile, we can pass that in, and then we give a new server player. So with that NPC object, so now we have an NPC, right? We have a server player NPC, but we need to actually make them appear on the server. Now, if you think about it, how does a player on the server know that other players exist, right? They know because the server is sending them packets telling them where other players are, that one has logged in, skin information, their name, other stuff like that. So the server is the coordinator telling other players where other players are and who they are. So in this case, we want to send a packet telling our player who ran the command the existence of NPC, our custom server player. We want to tell player that this player has run the server, and also do other stuff like set their skin and set their tab name and all that stuff like that, okay? And there's two primary packets we're going to do that. First, we're going to need a player info packet. So player info packet. And then second, we need a spawn player packet. And I've got the packet reference here if we want to take a look at it. So player info. So it says sent by the server to update the user list, the tab, and the client. So this will show the name of the player who has joined or is on the server on the tab list when you press tab. And that's how they appear there. And it also gives you other information about how their ping is shown. So if a ping is under 150 milliseconds, it will show 50 bars, and pretty useful information here. But we don't really have to worry about all this. You'll see why. So after this packet is sent, we also need to send a player spawn packet or spawn player packet, same thing. So this packet is sent by the server when a player comes into visible range, not when a player joins. But in this case, it's kind of the same thing for us. We're making an NPC appear. Technically, it's coming into range, we're seeing it, but it's artificial, right? So it doesn't really matter if they join or not, because they're not really existing in the first place. So it says this packet must be sent after the player info packet, which is the packet we just looked at, that adds the player data for the client to use when spawning a player. If the player info for the player spawned by this packet is not present when the packet arrives, not Qian clients will not spawn the packet, the player entity. The player info packet includes skin and cape data. So servers can, however, safely spawn player entities for players not in visible range. The client appears to handle it correctly. So we can use this packet to spawn a player even if they're not near us, essentially is what that means, even though it says not when a player joins. So it seems a little contradictory, if that's a word. But the point is that you send these two packets one after another to artificially put a player on the server, okay? Now the cool thing is we don't have to use protocollib or some other packet, library to spawn these packets, or send these packets rather. We can if we want to, right? The wiki is there for you to use that, to do that, because you can see all the info you need to pass in. But NMS already has, pre-built packets that you can use to do all of these things. So that's what we're going to do. So to send a packet, first we need a player connection object like we saw last time. I think that's the player connection is the name of the spigot or bucket mapping version of that class. But in this case, it's not called that for Mojang mapping, so we need to figure out what that is again. For Mojang mappings, I believe it's called, what's it called? So this is a really weird name. It's server, game, packet, listener, IMPL. Really weird. But we saw this last episode, so it's just kind of a refresher because it's not really easy to remember such things. So to get this thing, we're going to get the server player of the person who joined the server, so SP, and then we want to do .connection. So connection will return the object that we're trying to use in a variable. Okay, so now that we have this player connection object, we can do player info packet. We want to send that one. So we'll do a ps.send packet, or just send, and then we can pass in a packet into that parameter. So new, and we want to find the NMS representation of the player info packet. Sometimes the names are pretty much similar, like right here, we already found it, client bound player info packet, but sometimes the names are not similar at all. They're very hard to find sometimes. You have to do some digging. So client bound player info packet. Client bound means it's going from the server to the client, which is exactly what we need because the server is trying to tell the person who ran the command, the client, that a player has run the server, right? Or spawned near them, something like that. So we're going to do tab, and then the parameter for that constructor is going to be an action, and then also a server player object, which we have artificially created up here. And then there's other versions of this constructor as well, but we're not going to worry about those. So let's see what actions we have available. Usually something called action or something like that is a enumeration. So action dot, and that good guess, right? So action dot, and then we have all these types of actions we can use. So action dot add a player, action dot add, action dot remove player, action dot remove, action update display name, action update game mode, update latency. So in this case, obviously the one we're going to want is add player. In the case of maybe wanting to change the player name on the tab list, we would probably do update display name, I'm guessing, but you would have to play around with that. And then probably to remove the player from the tab list, you would do remove player. But again, you would need to test that out. I haven't tested that. But maybe you can try making a remove command and see if you can figure that out on your own, okay? So action.add player, there we go. And then after that, we're going to do, oh, let me scroll down a little bit for you guys. We're going to do the server player is the next, well, actually it's a var args parameter, meaning you can pass in as many as you want, server players as you want. But in this case, we only have one NPC, so we can just pass an NPC. But it's good to know that if we have multiple NPCs, we can pass them in. Pretty cool. Okay, so that should send the player info packet. Great, simple. Now we have the spawn packet. In this case, the name is not very obvious. So send, so new client bound. We know it's going to be client bound, just like the other one. And this one, we have some options here. So we have player info, and this is just IntelliJ glitching out on me. There's way more packets than these here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not sure why it's only showing 8 of them. It's kind of like a weird thing that's been happening. Restarting my IDE does help, but in this case, I already know the name of the packet I need. It's called add player packet. Client bound add player packet. It's not showing up because it's being annoying, but it's real, and you can import it right there. So new client bound add player packet, and then the thing that you pass into this is a player object. And you're like, wait, a player object, isn't that bucket? But no, it's not bucket. Of course, different libraries can have different, names of variables, or similar names of variables, or classes, excuse me. In this case, player right here happens to be bucket. In this case, server player happens to be NMS. So when I saw this, I was like, wait, what is the relationship between a server player in NMS and a player in NMS? Because I'm just curious. So if I want to figure that out, I can just hold control and then click server player to see the decompiled class of that. And you can see that server player, the class extends the player class right here. So this is an abstract class, which makes sense. So it's just a simple, hierarchical. So it's a very simple, object-oriented relationship. So this will work is what that means. So we can just pass an SP without any issue because server player is a player. So what this will do is send a new packet to the client, and it'll be having the data of the NPC that we're trying to spawn for that player, okay? So to be clear, just to be very clear, what we're doing here is we're not sending a packet to the NPC that we've created. We're sending a packet containing the data of the NPC that we've created to the person who's run the command, so that the person who's run the command will see that NPC, hopefully. That's the goal that we're trying to achieve. And this should be all the code we need to do that, to spawn a very, very simple NPC. So what we're going to do now is register this command and test it out on the server to see if it works, okay? All right, so let's go to the target folder where we usually find our jars, Explorer. And yes, I'm using Windows 11, by the way. It's awesome because I know a lot of people are going to ask. They've been asking. It's great. I think you should try it out if you can. But anyway, so we got our jar files here. The one that we want is the remapped one. So we got remapped ob for obfuscated, original, and then this one here. But we want the remapped one. This is basically meaning that it was compiled using the merging mappings, but this remapped one, you're remapping it back to the bucket spigot mappings, okay? So copy that one, and then we're going to move it to our test server, put it into our plugins folder, and then start the server here. Do y'all like my water bottle, by the way? Don't forget to drink water, okay? It's very healthy for your cells. I have healthy cells. Alright, so let's go ahead and join the server now. Hopefully nothing will go wrong, but knowing me, something will explode, right? Right, guys? Such is the life of a programmer. Okie dokie, we are on the server now. We've just spawned. So we're going to do /create. Looks like that command works. Boom. And here we go. We are frozen in time. Not cool, man. Not cool. It looks like we have spawned we spawned ourselves within ourselves somehow. What the hell? So what we can assume here, well, first of all, it does show Billy Bob in the tab list, so that's good. That's a good sign. So we do have our NPC up there. So that packet worked, but I think considering what the hell's going on here, we probably sent the second packet incorrectly. So let's go ahead and check it out. Let's investigate. So I was right. Something did go wrong. So you owe me $10. Let's think. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you noticed this when I was coding it. But instead of passing NPC like I was supposed to, I passed SP, which is the server player of the player who ran the command, not the server player object of the NPC that we created artificially. So hopefully you noticed that. If you did notice that, bonus points, and you get a high five. You're going to leave me hanging right now? Really? Come on, man. But let's try again, okay? Okie dokie, so we are on the server now, and we're going to do /create. And look who spawns, Mr. Billy Bob. He's a nice looking Steve guy. And as you notice, he doesn't spawn in a random spot. If you do it again, you'll see that another NPC, Alex, ugly ass bitch, spawns inside of him, right? Why is that? Well, if you think about it, we never set the location of the NPC that we're spawning, right? So this means that the server, when it, gets the spawn packet, when the client receives the packet that spawns the player, it's going to spawn them in the place that every player spawns, so like the spawn location. So this is why when I keep running it, I'll just get new NPCs created in that location. And if I was to join with my other account from any of my other Minecraft accounts, or anyone else was able to join, they would not see this person here because they have not received the NPC, the 2 packs that we've sent, okay? So it doesn't exist for them, but as you can see if you hold tab as well, they do exist for me. So it's my own reality, essentially. So I'm going crazy. But another thing to prove that is if I rejoin the server, they won't be there anymore. As you can see, boom. So they never existed in the first place. The packets gave us a false view, a false reality. So it's kind of a really cool concept if you think about it, right? So what I'm going to do now is we're going to try setting the location of the NPC so they spawn. Let's set them to spawn in our location. How about that? So they spawn where we are when we run the command. So let's see if we can do that. We have a server player object here. This means that we can run methods upon that. So NPC, and we have set. We have all these different things here we can do. And not all of them work, by the way. If you were to do something like set item in main hand, that would not work because there's a packet for that. Well, technically you can set the item in the main hand of this object that you're creating here, but it won't appear to the person on the server that is looking at that NPC because they have not received the packet that shows items in other people's hands. There's actually a packet for that. You have to specifically send a packet to that player who wants to see that NPC holding an item, a item hold packet or something like that, which we'll do in a second, right? And yeah, so you have to be aware of that. Not all of them are going to work how you want them to work. But one that does work for sure is set POS, which as you can imagine stands for set position. So the parameters for this is either a vector object, a vec3, or a XYZ double coordinate. Okay, so to get this pretty simple, all you got to do is do player, the person who's running the command, the bucket object, or technically interface, it's a variable though, and then .get location, .get x, player.get location, .get y, and then player.getLocation.getZ. There we go. So technically those are integers, but you know, whatever, right? They cast into doubles anyway. They work the same way. Okay, so now that should spawn the NPC in the player's location. So let's see if that's true. All right, back on the server, reloaded. So I'm going to create now, and they spawn inside of me. Great. Well, not inside of me exactly. We're getting the block XYZ. We're doing get block X, not like get the actual X. So it's going to be a whole number because it returns an integer. So it's going to return them in the actual like middle of a block. So just be aware of that. But cool thing is that we can set the location where they spawn now. Awesome. Now guys, let's do something really cool. Let's set the skin of the NPC and make them look like someone else. Alright, so to do that, like I told you before, we're going to be using the game profile object. This is what stores the UUID as well as the skin information. Now to set the skin of a NPC, it has to have two things. You need a signature and a texture. So string signature and string texture. And these can be obtained from a already existing real Minecraft player account. And there's an easy way you can obtain the signature and texture thingies, or I guess I'll call them tokens. And that's by doing this link here. So if you go to the interwebs real quick and go ahead and do this. If you paste that link, nothing will happen. It's a bad request. But if you replace UUID with the UUID of the accounts that you're trying to get the skin for, it will give you the secret or the signature in the texture keys that you need. Now, as long as you know the username of the account that you're trying to get the skin for, you can get their UUID. All you got to do is do Minecraft UUID lookup. And now there's plenty of websites for doing this. So we're going to search Notch. Notch is the creator of Minecraft. And we're going to copy this one here, the trim UUID, which is the one without the dashes. So that should copy it. And then now replace UUID with that thing that you just copied. So there you go. And it gives you the information you need. So now you have the texture and the signature. So we're going to copy the signature first. Paste that in here. And then copy the texture. So this one here. Boom. Great. Now, if you're trying to create some, system where you don't have to, look up the UUID every time and then, go to this website here on your own. If you're trying to create something automatic within your plugin, let's say if you want to make like a disguise plugin, for example, that creates an NPC that looks like another player, just by passing in the username of the player as a argument. What you could do is get, let's assume that player is on the server, right? What you could do is take that argument of the player's name and then using bucket, get the player object of that by passing in the player name into the bucket.getPlayer method. And that'll give you the player object usually, I think. And then from that, if that works successfully, if that doesn't return null, you can then get the UUID of the player that you have grabbed. And then what you could do is use the Java HTTP API. This is a URL here, and when you run this, when you press enter to go to this website here, you're making a HTTP GET request, right? If you don't know anything about HTTP, and what you could do is use Java's built-in HTTP API to make that GET request to this website here, and it'll return this JSON here, right? And you can use this JSON, and you can extract the signature and texture from this JSON object here by using a library like JSON or Jackson. So that's something you could do. That's just off the top of my head how I might do it. Again, just use a built-in Java HTTP library or some other library to do that, and then read the data using JSON, using a JSON library. Okay. If you want to see me do something like that, if you want to see me make something like that, then just let me know in the comment section below, and I may do it. Okay. All right. So let's close this. We don't need that anymore. You can look up any skin you want. I'm gonna just do Notch because that's a very common name. So now that we have the signature and the texture, we can do game profile dot get properties dot put, and the thing that we're trying to put is going to be called textures. That's the key of the property that we're setting. Then for the property parameter, we're going to do new property, and we'll need another value. In this case, it'll just be textures again, or name rather. for the second one here, name, value, signature. So textures, okay, and then the value will be the texture itself, and the signature, oh wait, we messed up. In here, comma here, and then so the value will be the texture itself, and then the signature will be the signature. And with luck, that should set the skin of the NPC that we've created. So we're just accessing the game profile of that NPC, and then setting the textures key within that game profile, or property, I guess you could call it. And then we're setting it to the texture and the signature that we have grabbed from the interwebs. So these keys here should represent the notch skin that we're setting. Let's run this again and see if it works on the server. Create. And now, look at this. We have Billy Bob. His name is Billy Bob, but here's the skin of Notch. So that's how you can take a skin from anywhere and set it to your custom NPC. By the way, all the code for this episode is going to be in the description below in a link, a GitHub link, so you can view the whole repository of this project, and you can, download the code, save the code, bookmark the page, for later use in case you want to see how to do these things. Because this is not easy to remember, right? This is not code you're going to be using every day. So you may want to have it saved somewhere, and you can use my repository as a reference if you want to, or just steal it if you want, I guess. Okay, so now that we've set the skin, I'm going to show you how to do something else that's pretty cool. I'm going to show you how to give the player items as well as armor. Because like I said before, if you try doing that using just the NPC objects, it's not going to work. And we're going to do that using more packets, because packets are how you make a player on the server see something else. In this case, you're going to see another player, or they think it's a player, holding an item or wearing an item, okay? So ps.send. And the packet that we're going to use to do this is called new client bound set equipment packet. So as you can imagine, this will set the equipment of the player, usually their armor, but in this case it references both their armor and the items that they're holding. So and then the parameter for this is going to be, first of all, an integer. We're not really sure what that is just by looking at it. And the second parameter that we're looking for is a list of pairs. So a list of key value pairs, it looks like. So let's try to figure out what is the first parameter that we need for this constructor. I already know what it is, obviously, because I've coded this out before, but I want to show you my process for figuring these things out, okay? Okay, so what we're going to do is go to our protocol reference here and try looking for a set equipment packet or something similar, okay? And here we go, entity equipment. So a player is an entity, by the way. So the first parameter is an entity ID, which is an integer, and the second parameter is a equipment, and it seems to be a slot item array, which is exactly what it's asking for, pretty much. So we can safely assume that this is probably the packet that we're looking at right now. So the first thing is going to be an entity ID. We can grab that by doing, there's a few ways we can grab it, but if we have this NPC server player object, we can probably get it from that. npc.get entity ID. Get ID. That would probably give it, but I'm not certain. So what you could do is to get bucket entity from that dot get entity ID. That's a really quick and easy way to do that, just to be sure, because the method names are more clear in this case. And then after that, for the list of pairs here, we can do list dot of, and then this is really scary and intimidating looking, but since it's a list, we can provide as many as we want. So we're going to have a pair of equipment slots. So you're saying what slot we want to have that item inside of, and then the item stack itself. So let's make a new pair. So new pair from probably this one here. No, this one here. This one makes the most sense. And yeah, so it's asking for equipment slot and item stack. So equipment slot, we can safely assume that one's probably an enumeration. So equipment slot, there we go. Chest, feet, head, legs, main hand, offhand. So you can choose any of these. So let's try doing, let's make it so the player's holding an axe in their main hand. So equipment slot dot main hand. And then in the second parameter for this pair, we want to pass in the item stack. So since we're using NMS, it's not going to be a bucket item stack. It's going to be an NMS item stack. So you have to be very careful of that fact. And it's very tricky. I couldn't figure out how to get an item stack for NMS. Obviously, because we're using Mojang mappings, the documentation's not as good and clear. But I did find a way. There's actually a cool utility class you can use for this. It's called craft item stack. craft item stack. And then you have all these static methods here: as item or as NMS copy, copy NMS stack, as bucket copy. So it allows you to take a regular bucket item stack and convert it to a NMS item stack. And it also allows you to take a NMS item stack and then convert it to a bucket item stack. So very, very useful in this case. And the one that we need is a as NMS copy. Boom. So we're going to pass into this the bucket item stack that we want to set in the main hand of the player. So very, very useful. So we're going to create that here. Item stack ax is equal to new item stack. Make sure it's the one from bucket, by the way. So the first thing we need is the material. So material.diamond ax. And then you can optionally provide a amount, but we don't care. Then you go back here and then pass it into as NMS copy. And with luck, it should convert that bucket item stack into an NMS item stack and put it into the new player constructor here. And then now we have a list of pairs. You can set as many pairs as you want. But then it should send that packet with that pair that we had along with the entity ID. And now it should show that NPC holding an axe because we have sent the client bound set equipment packet. All right. Okay, we're back. Create. And now we got Notch holding an axe. Awesome. Pretty cool, right? We can't hit it because we just can't. If you want to see a video on how to do that, then let me know. A lot of different things we can do. All right, so now let's set some other stuff. Like in the intro to this video, he was holding 2 axes and also having a helmet. So let's go ahead and set those other things. So what we could do is we can add more packets to add more items. But since we already have a list here, of pairs, we can just add more pairs, right? So we can add as many pairs as we want. So new pair, equipment slot dot offhand to have an axe in the offhand as well, and then craft item stack dot as NMS copy axe. So this line is getting really long, so I'm just going to craft a new packet here. So ps.send new client bound set equipment packet, npc.getBucketEntity.get entity ID, a list of new pair equipment slot, and this time we're going to set the helmet to a gold helmet. So head, that targets the helmet, or head, excuse me, and we're going to put a helmet on the head. So craft item stack dot as NMS copy new item stack material dot gold helmet. Boom, boom. All right, there we go. Very very long piece of code here. Now they should be holding 2 axes and as a helmet as well. We're doing the same thing, just passing sending a new packet from the server to the client with the information of the thing that we're targeting as well as the item that we want to put in that spot. Okay, look at that. There we go. So Billy Bob with a diamond helmet or gold helmet holding 2 axes. Very, very beautiful. All right, so we've made a lot of progress creating NPCs so far. We know how to do some pretty advanced things. We can create a artificial server player and then make him appear on the server. We can also give him some items as well as a skin. So he's looking pretty real so far. Next thing I want to do is show you how to make him look at other players so that he looks even more real. And that's how we'll end this episode, okay? Alright, so I just took a massive dump and I'm back. So what I'm going to do is create a new listener here so that whenever the player moves, the NPC changes the direction that they're looking to look at the new location to which the player moved to. So I'll call it movement listener. Whenever the player moves, we want to get all of the NPCs that are, well, ideally we want to get only the NPCs that are near them so we're not wasting time affecting NPCs that are not near the player, because then the player can't see the NPCs near them anyway. There's no point in affecting those. But in just this simple example here, this simple plugin that we're making, we want to get all NPCs that we've created and then loop through them to change the direction that they're looking. So every time we create a new NPC, we want to store that NPC object somewhere so it can be accessed inside of this listener here. And the most simple way, straightforward way, is just to make a class or a list inside of our main plugin class here so that we can access it wherever we want. Just make it public static or something like that. So we're gonna do private list of server players because that's the type of our NPC. So list server player, import list we'll call it NPCs, is equal to new array list. And then we'll also have a variable representing, we'll make it static by the way, so but we'll also have a variable representing the class itself, so creating NPCs. You'll see why in a second. So private static creating NPCs plugin. We've done this a few times in the series, many times actually. All right, cool. And then now we can get rid of this. We don't need that, but we can create a getter method for both of these. So now if you get the plugin, you can also get, oh, let's make this accessible publicly. If you get the plugin, you can also get the NPCs array list, or you can just make this one public straight up. Either one is fine. Yeah, let's just do that. We don't even need that, to be honest. So we can just directly access that one. So inside of movement listener, we can then do creating NPCs dot get NPCs the list, and then we can loop through the list. So stream through the list if we want to. But before we do that, we want to add the NPC that we've created here. So let's also send the player message. So p.send message, p.send message. Make sure p is the, it's called player, okay. Player.send message. I have, you have created a new Billy Bob NPC. And then after that, we want to add that to the array list. So we'll do creating NPCs dot get NPCs, the array list, and then add it NPC. So we're adding the variable to that list. Then inside of here, whenever we move, we want to loop through each of those. So for each NPC, and again, there's two packets we have to use to do this, what we're trying to achieve here. So the first packet is the client bound, so the rotate head packet. This is for horizontal head movement. I don't think I spelled horizontal correctly. And then the second packet is the move entity packet. There's different variations of the name just because there's different mappings and stuff like that, but this is the one, this is the name of it inside of the NMS NMS merging mappings, sorry. So this will be the vertical head movement. And okay, so for the first one, we want to do, first we need to obtain the player connection object, or whatever the crazy name is that we used before. So server game packet listener implementation, PS is equal to npc.get connection, or just connection. There we go. So then we'll do ps.send, ps.send, new client bound rotate head packet. And if you do control P, it says we want an entity, and also the second is going to be a byte. So for the first one, the entity will just be the NPC itself that we're trying to rotate the head for. And let's go ahead and look up the documentation on what the second one is. Pull up the wiki here. So we'll just search rotate. This one. So entity head look. So first one is the entity ID. In this case, it's just the entity that we're passing in because it's a custom packet. We're not like explicitly setting each data point, although you can with like protocol lib or something like that. And then the second one is going to be the head yaw, the angle. So while sending the entity look packet changes the vertical rotation of the head, sending this packet appears to change the horizontal rotation. Okay, so we want the new angle, not a delta. So you're passing in the new angle for the yaw of where the head should be looking. So we have to calculate that somehow, then pass it in. Okay, so to calculate this, it was very tricky. I just looked it up. That's the best thing for this, unless you're good with like using your brain. I'm not good with like math and stuff like that and direction, so I did have to look it up. So first, let's get the location of the thing that we're trying to look at. That's obviously the first step. So location is equal to, import that, e.getLocation, or e.getPlayer.getLocation. So the player is the ones that is moving in the event, so we want to get the location based off of that player and store that into an object. And then the location will be npc.getLocation. Or we can do getBucketNTC.getLocation. That's an easy way to do that. And then location.setDirection, and then the location of the player that it has moved in the event. So e.getPlayer.getLocation.subtract location to vector. So we're trying to get the vector of the direction that they should be looking, and we do that by subtracting the different locations. That somehow gives you the location or the vector in which you should be targeting. I actually did this for another plugin really recently. I don't really understand the math behind it, but I do know that that does give you the actual direction. Now I'm going to get the yaw and pitch as well. So float yaw is equal to location.get yaw, and then float pitch is equal to location.get pitch. Looks good. And now for the thing that we're going to put inside of here, I'm just going to copy it because it's not my code. Just found it on the interwebs. And also all of this NPC code that I have here, a lot of it, someone helped me out. His name is BigVirusBoi. He's been a subscriber for a long time. He's a friend of mine. He supplied me some source codes to use to make this episode, and I used it to plan everything out. And he helped me very much with figuring out how to do this. So thanks to BigVirusBoi, thank you so much. And I'll leave the code for his projects in the description below. He did his using the regular mappings, the bucket spigot mappings. I'm doing mine using the Mojang mappings. So if you want to see how to do it using those mappings, you can. And also he made a NPC manager, so you can. It's all like set up in one class, which is really cool too. So make sure to check that out. There's a link in the description below. So shout out to BigVirusBoi. Anyway, where was I? So yeah, we're going to copy that, paste it. Here we go. I'm not really sure how the math works with this. Maybe it's not perfect. I feel like you probably don't need this or something like that, but I don't want to mess with it. But what all that does is it uses the yaw that we got from here and somehow puts it in a way so that we can use it on our NPC to make them look horizontally in the direction that they need to be looking, okay? If you want to explain this to me in the comment section below, I'll be very grateful because I'm just not good at vectors and math and like direction and stuff like that. So if anyone wants to explain it, please go ahead. All right. But anyway, that should make them look in the horizontal direction of the NPC. Let's go ahead and test this out now to see if it works. All right. But so we need to register this before we do that though. So get server .get plugin manager register events new movement listener this. All right, reload /create. There you go. And now he does not look at me. Uh-oh. Got an exception. It says cannot invoke blah 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 because PS is null. All right. PS is null. Okay. So let's investigate this exception real quick. Oh yeah, so I got the wrong connection, right? So it doesn't make sense to get the NPC connection, right? We want to get the connection of the player that we're trying to make see the NPC look at them. Does that make sense? We're trying to get the connection object of the player that moved, right? The player on the server, not the NPC. So instead of doing NPC.connection, we want to first get the player involved in the event, then get the craft bucket representation of that. So we want to cast it. So cast that to a craft player. And then after we cast it to a craft player, we want to get the handle, which will get the NMS representation, so the server player objects. Get handle, and then .connection. So that will give you the proper connection we need. Hopefully you caught that mistake. I like to leave these mistakes in the video so you know how to fix these types of issues. And if you think about them logically, you'll understand why it went wrong in the first place. You don't want that connection, you want this connection. Now we'll do /create, and he should look at me now. There we go, look at that. So now he rotates his head as I move to look at me. So that's horizontal rotation. Now we need vertical rotation so he looks up and down. So both that way and that way, okay? This one's pretty much the same exact thing. So we'll do ps.send, but instead of a rotate head packet, we're going to do the move entity packet. So new client bound. This one took a lot of time to find actually because the names are so different. But you had like someone, I don't remember who found this for me, but thank you to whoever was in the stream while I was working on this. They found that it was client bound move entity packet .rotate or ROT. So this specific packet will allow you to rotate the head of the player up and down. So first we need the entity ID if you look at the reference, or just common sense, it's asking for an integer, so you can assume it's the entity ID. So entity, or rather we can use this. IntelliJ is really smart. Actually, this is not the one we want. That's e.getPlayer. We want to get the NPC one. So npc.getBuckEntity.getEntityID. And then now we need the, first we need the yaw, second we need the pitch, and then third we need is it on the ground or not. So for the yaw, we already did that one. So we'll just copy that one from here. And again, I didn't say this before, but hopefully it was obvious. The reason I casted it to a byte is because the parameter is asking for a byte data type. And then it doesn't really, I guess false. It doesn't really matter, I guess, if it's on the ground or not. I don't think it shouldn't matter too much. But this one we want to change to pitch. And since this one is also asking for yaw, I wonder if we could just take this packet out. You might be able to, but traditionally in these types of tutorials where you're trying to make a NPC look at you, you want to have both. But we'll test this out before we remove this one to see if they both work. So pitch. So essentially the same calculation we're doing with yaw. And now we're sending the client bound move entity packet dot rotate. And let's see what happens. Okay, I'm back. So we'll do /create. And he looks at me. Look at that. He even rotates his body as well, which is great. Awesome. Oh, I think I do know why the yaw is needed. First, let's remove this to confirm something. Let's go ahead and remove the first packet so we can see what the second packet does on its own. It's better to understand things than just copy and paste, right, guys? So this one, okay, it makes sense. So this one, he rotates his body horizontally, but he does not rotate his head horizontally. But he also does rotate his head vertically. So the first and the second packet is needed because when you put them together, everything rotates. So perfect, that's exactly what we need. So everything I did so far, it's only targeting a specific player. I mean, for this event here, it's targeting all players. But in this case, that player, well, in this case, like this player that I'm playing with will be the only player that sees these NPCs that have spawned, right? Because the person who runs the command only sees the NPC. If you want everyone on the server to see your NPC that you've created, not just the player who ran the command, then you need to loop through every player on the server and then run the code that we ran in the create NPC method or command. Because again, you're only sending the packet to that specific player or client. You're not sending it to every player on the server. So for future reference, if you decide to make any plugins like this and you want every player to see the NPC, then you need to be aware of that. You need to send the packet to everybody, not just the player that's running the command, okay? So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. It was really fun to make. You should know how to make basic NPCs now and make them look nice and make them look at you to make them more realistic. I want to show you guys some more advanced things with NPCs, so if you also want to see that, then let me know. If there's any other things with NMS or advanced Spigot programming that you want to see, then make sure to let me know as well. And if you like these episodes, then hit that like button, okay? Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. In the description below, I'll leave a link to the code for this episode so you can check it out. You can bookmark it, come back to it later. If you forget any concepts or you just want to review the concepts I taught in this video, I'll mark everything up with comments so you can come back and read the code without having to rewatch the video, although your reviews are greatly appreciated. So yeah, I'll leave a link for that in the description below, so make sure to check it out. And another thing is I'll leave a link to our Discord server. It's a big community for programmers. You can ask for help on your programming projects if you're stuck on something, or maybe you can get some new friends. If you don't have any friends, there's lots of people here. It's growing really fast. You can find lots of people who are passionate about the same things as you. For example, if you like Minecraft Spigot development, you can find lots of people who like that. If you like C++, if you like Java, if you like web development, it's a really, really big programming community. So feel free to join. There's a link for that in the description below. And the last thing I want to tell you is that if you want to support this channel, you can click the join button below this video and you can join this channel as a member for as low as 99 cents a month, and you can cancel at any time. You get some cool perks like early access to all of my new videos, a cool rank on my Discord server like you see right here on the side, YouTube members, and also you get to see yourself on the screen like you see right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. And thank you. Thanks a lot. And that's it. So if you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. And peace.